and the users that are facing a challenge may not be aware that those solutions exist. That's why there is a need to engage with these user communities, which creates value. In terms of co-design, what we saw are many examples of engagement with user communities, sometimes multiple communities, and this creates innovation through diversity. And co-design creates value, meaning not only added value, but sometimes commercial value. The outcome of co-design is very rich. It starts very early, at an early stage for market discovery. So the kind of breakthrough innovation I was mentioning, where you have a solution, you want to create a digital twin of Germany, but you need to incubate also and foresee the application that would consume this kind of data in order to build a sort of business model for the solution, because you have upfront cost to invest and develop the data set itself. At such an early stage, co-design is used on the basis of prototypes or demonstration or pilots, like what we are doing, to iterate with these user communities and solve this chicken egg situation where you have an innovation that you want to bring to a market that is not mature enough because it doesn't know that your innovation can solve their problem. So you are trying to adjust a new service to a new demand. The engagement is continuous, so it starts with this early stage, of course, but it's not only in terms of designing the solution, but also implementing the solution, validating the solution, and also during the phase of operationalization, when you want to have continuous improvement, you would have, for example, in urban resilience pilot, you would have an annual meeting, gathering of end users to improve your service. And the way, not only the way you deliver your data, for example, or the way you provide your service, but also even the parameters that you are supplying, that can be a sort of small pivot in a situation that, in a solution that already exists. In terms of co-design, on the how to perform co-design, it is effective, most effective through physical presence, because the exchanges are more rich. Due to COVID situation, there were experiments of remote co-design. So this is a cost saver, partly, but the interaction needs to be adjusted through small groups, through visual work, through also the training of the persons that would intervene, that need to be comfortable with the technology. So this was an experience in Safer. A good quote that I liked very much is users are not sure of what they can expect, but they know what they don't want, and you can already learn from that. I thought this was a very good learning from CDS. Regarding the second point, knowledge sharing and the Geo Knowledge Hub. So there were limited mentions of this point, I must say. The pilots and the solution we see, they focus all their resources on serving their end users and upscaling. So each time they have a resource or time, this is what they do, and this is their goal and purpose in life. When the platforms like GEOSS, EuroGEO, and or the Geo Knowledge Network can serve these goals, then they would be mobilized. This means because these platforms, the fact to share knowledge also consumes resources. So from the side of a pilot or an application, this is also an investment, which means that there needs to be some return on this investment that need to be very clear. This means that the Geo Knowledge Hub, for example, needs to have a very clear value proposition. If you invest in sharing your knowledge, etc., what do you gain in exchange and how? Which is a vision where knowledge sharing is seen as a sort of service, actually. Then there were specific requests. So in case this knowledge sharing would bring value, then the requests are very specific. The leveraging on thematic platforms to address new market or to perform more outreach, the access and display of available data in a different format. They would like on some platform to get access to some very specific data, in particular local data or in situ data. The integration of their service into the Copernicus operational service portfolio, so that the service can be consumed by others, and also the participation in events for dissemination. And on the last point, the contribution, so the value of a better integration of EuroGEO and GEO, and the upscaling of solutions. So this level of integration is seen by the presenters as a way to enrich the exchanges, to share best practices, success stories, and to upscale. Upscaling meaning addressing a new geographic area with the same service, but also for some services to pivot a little bit to address thematics that are related to an existing thematic, potentially on a different geographic area, sometimes not. On the same city, you can have several services addressing different thematics. There is a huge amount of flexibility that is relatively new, that is offered by the new platform. So the use of Sentinel data, the Copernicus core services were mentioned, and also cloud computing that are tremendous tools to upscale. But now the question is where to upscale and how, what to do, right? In terms of upscaling, where does it bring value to upscale? In some cases, upscaling implies to switch some of the data sources because you are going to a different geographic area, you have a different coverage of the data source, you need to swap data source. But in any case, it is acknowledged by most presenters that their services could be used elsewhere in different circumstances or for different communities. And then, in terms of engagement with EuroGEO, with GEO, there is a value on engagement on issues of common interest. So here I listed some of them. So the local engagement and the use of local data. So of course, the need for high resolution, but also not only high resolution, but accurate and relevant data, and promoting the value of very high resolution data into the EuroGEO and the GEO framework. The identification of missing data, so that having discussion among the communities to identify what is missing and make it available. The integration of EC2 data was mentioned, the validation of crowdsourcing, exchanges of good practices for co-design. This is what we did for the first point. Lessons learned on DataCube, and in some cases global upscaling. So in the way the fact to engage in GEO at large, so not only in EuroGEO, can help to bring existing services that were developed at European level into another framework and potentially to develop on in another regional GEO. So that's in a nutshell, the summary on these 3 points from the 7 pilots. Of course, the presentation were much richer than what I could ever summarize in these 3 slides. So please forgive me if I forgot an important point. I really did my best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nicolas, if you have a question, you can raise your hand, or you can open your video and micro and then ask your question, if you have any.
Maybe just on the beautiful sentence of it was something like users don't know what they want, but know what they don't want. This is something really important, because I really see it's true, and in fact I think this is something we all, or when we are at the step to create services, platform or thing like that, need to think, because often we start with this first step of gathering needs of the users. And in fact, the issue is if we try to have the idea about what users need, is not often easy. And notably because often they are not really aware of the capacity of new IT services or new cloud platform or HPC or thing like that. So there is something around that who is, I think, really important in the steps we can follow for maybe for a project of 2, 3, or 5 or 10 years to create services, because at the basis, if we are just looking at the needs of the user, we can be completely out of the good thing to do. So this is really this needs gathering is really more complicated, and you need to have also input from IT guys, but not only and not too much, because you don't have to influence too much the user on it. So yeah, just maybe between the users and the IT guys, for example, we really need to have a continuum with a lot of translators. I don't know how to call that, but we can be sure that the needs or the future needs can be the good one. And it's not an easy task, in fact, really.
Thanks for the comment, Ivan. It's quite the conclusion we reach, and through the eShape project and the co-design approach we develop, it's a continuous link with the users in different situations that was really set up, and some methodology to develop the links. And this will be available, of course, through the eShape website. And I think Raphael or Schenker, which are online, can also give some input on that. So thank you very much, Nicolas and Yves-Marie. If you wish to add some point, it's okay. So we can go to the next report from the land community, or for the land breakout session. I think it's Swen or Andy which is going to make the report. Andy.
Thank you, Thierry. Hope you can see my slides.
Yes.
Very good. I'd like to thank the participants of the session. I'm going to share some of the key messages we have for EuroGEO from the land session. Let me see if I can click. So I'm going to just quickly show some quick impressions of the 6 presentations we had. First was Nicolas Batostas from NOI Greece with the eShape pilot on resilient sustainable ecosystems, including agriculture and food. And this was followed by GEOSS from Rosa Araujo from EuroGEO in Spain on vineyard innovative tools based on integration of EO services and in-field sensors. Then I switched hats from rapporteur to presenter, and I presented the vegetation index crop insurance pilot from eShape in Ethiopia called Vici. This was followed by a dual presentation between Clarissa from National University of Rwanda and Vahilis from Draxis in Greece on Agricultures, the enhancing food security in African agricultural systems with the support of remote sensing project. Then we had another dual presentation from Miriam Kosmale and Mikko from FMI in Finland on a very focused pilot on harvester seasons. And finally, Ivan from the French Natural History Museum on operationalization of essential biodiversity variables through the European Galaxy E platform. And this covered a diversity of applications from agricultural insurance to forestry to how can we better use Earth observation for biodiversity considerations. So it was really nice to see all of these 6 pilots and demonstrations in the session. And I will post the link to the services in the chat once I've finished my plenary summary. So this is what we gleaned from their 3 questions across all of the demonstrations. So in terms of co-design, it was very clear to most that engaging early and continuously with stakeholders was one part of the kind of success story here, really helping to scope out the needs and also determining the level of interest to work together. So there was also an element of kind of expectation management in what we aim to do together, and helping to strengthen the partnerships and understanding within the community. Very much having a user-centered development process, so a strong focus, I think, on kind of co-creation and co-development as part of the building ownership and relevance of the tools. There was also kind of a wide recognition of using as many open platforms and tools as we possibly can, kind of equity and equality for stakeholders. They can keep track of what's going on. They're in touch with the process, and they have a kind of equal level of participation. And there was one kind of interesting point that came up, don't always build something new. There are many tools and platforms out there. What can we create based on existing tools that our users are familiar with, and focus on making those accessible and useful? For the question of knowledge sharing, what kind of success stories or messages came out here? Again, open access platforms and tools, using these as much as possible, thinking about interoperability and adoption of standards, strengthening European geo data access by the use of Copernicus data, for example, and making sure it's accessible across diverse platforms, whether they're mobile platforms or through traditional computer-based access, just increasing the accessibility options for these services. Certainly using and expanding the existing network of partners, continually looking for opportunities. Where else can we be presenting our work and sharing what we know, finding all these different kind of communities that are out there. And certainly by establishing a community of practice. So having, you know, a kind of a recognized way of working and trying to generate interest through that. Reproducible methods came up, making sure we have transparency and access to what's going on in terms of building trust and expanding the knowledge of what's going on behind the different services, and registering what we do clearly so they're recognized, they're approved, and following good data sharing principles. These also came out as being important aspects of let's say, best practice in knowledge sharing. Integration and upscaling. I think this is where we had much more diversity in the responses. So I've tried to capture a few things here. Certainly by being active in multiple geo communities was seen as important. At the very beginning, you know, having a sustainability plan, it shouldn't be an afterthought. It's something that's actually built in from the very beginning of these projects. And working closely with partners and stakeholders in the region to, again, look for the opportunities to upscale. The upscaling ambitions often require some foundations in terms of, does the private market exist for this service? Does the policy framework exist that's going to enable this service to be successful? So being very cognizant that these requirements can be essential for a successful scaling up phase. Looking at well-established market networks, working very clearly to identify what these markets are. And again, this links back to having a business model and a sustainability plan. What certainly helps is by basing your services perhaps on cloud-based infrastructure. So you've got scalability built in from the beginning and it's interoperable. So you're using well-supported platforms and replicable methods. And something that came back, and this may be particular to the agricultural domain, is the challenge in scaling is often in situ data requirements. So we have the EO data, but do we have the in situ data to calibrate and scale out to other areas, as well as the effort required to scale out to forge new partnerships? So there's a technical component, but also a, let's say, a kind of a social and a networking component to make sure that what you've established in one area can successfully translate to another. In summary, the services during the land session all contributing to EuroGEO with user-oriented solutions. And at different levels, they're all addressing these three key recommendations for a regional geo initiative, being co-design, knowledge sharing, and upscaling. And finally, they all really were end-user driven. It was very clear to see that, and they all have quite similar approaches. Again, I come back to this in situ data issue, and data sharing is sometimes a challenge in the agricultural sector. Sometimes the data that we would love to have is quite sensitive, perhaps relating to private land holdings and management that may not be so easy to access and share. So we have to identify the incentive. What's the value added for stakeholders to be more open and share their data? And I can note here that GeoGlam, for example, has initiated an in situ data working group to look at some of these challenges. And upscaling, public-private partnerships, supportive policy frameworks, and sustainable business models. So all of these seem to be foundations that are required to enable an upscaling phase, and the market analysis that's required so that the services really have a clear plan to move away perhaps from public financing and to look at more private finance and sustainable business models. So all I can say is thanks again to all the participants. I think Sven and I really enjoyed the session. There was a lot of feedback, and impressed with the diversity and the the early success of some of these user-oriented services. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andy, for this nice feedback. Any question, remarks, or addition to the report handled by Andy? It was quite an interesting discussion, and I see that.
I don't want to give all of the comments, but for me, there is really an amazing bottleneck, particularly in situ data, with the accessibility of in situ data. And maybe the worst is not the fact that it's complicated to have access to in situ data. It's maybe also because this is when you are on the internet and on catalogs. There is plenty of services to propose access to biodiversity data or in situ data, and in fact, when you go towards the final step to have the data, you see that you can't have access to. And this is something particularly in situ data in biodiversity, who is so amazing. This is too complicated, and I am really working completely on that on the national French part, but also in the Go Fair biodiverse action, where we just list hundreds of the in situ databases on the world we can have access to normally. And in fact, you see that something like 70% are not accessible at all. And after that, when you access to some data, and particularly related to the creation of a biodiversity indicator, I am thinking about the Living Planet Index, for example, with maybe the major index known over the world. When you look at the data you can use from 2K16, in fact, you see that the data is corrupted. And in fact, you have access, if you use it and you try to reanalyze it, you see, in fact, there is an issue on the data set. And this is too many times the case with in situ data. So there is really something strong to do in this scope with in situ data. And also to have information about the variables, the primary variables on this in situ data. Because with sensors, captors, it's quite easy because we have this information with the captors and the sensor. But with in situ data, it's really more complicated. And until now, it's really rare that the catalogs, the data warehouse, pay attention, particularly for in situ data in biodiversity, to give the information about the primary variables. And if you want to go towards essential variables in biodiversity, but also in other domains, you need to have this information because it's too complicated to make something IT relevant on that if you don't have the knowledge of the domain. In fact, so this is something really important, this data aspect, in fact, particularly in situ. And I really am happy that there is this group who will focus on that for EuroGEO.
Thank you, Yvan. Sven, you want to intervene in the discussion?
Yeah, just a quick remark from my side that people interested in the in situ data working group in GeoGlam can reach out to me, and then I'll bring them in contact with Ian as well and see how we distribute the work. There's 3 subtasks already, but I don't want to take it too much into detail here. Just reach out to me and I'll get in contact with the right persons.
Thank you, Sven. It's also an issue on Geo at large, this in situ data, and there is a specific focus on that. And we had also in Copernicus the feedback from the work which is handled by José Rubio and the José Miguel Rubio from the European Environmental Agency that tried to set up also some activity in Copernicus related to the in situ. So there is really this focus which is really here and can support also all the questions we had around that. And even Johan Masso is also part of the group in situ in Geo. If there is no more question or remark, we can go to the next report from Richard and Lionel. Thanks a lot, Andy, and for the link also on the chat and for the different exchange. So, Richard, the floor is yours. You can share your screen.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
So we do a short feedback from the platform session. So during this session, we had 7 presentations. So it's for very wide, rich, and huge diversity of topics and platforms. Here you have the list of the presentations. So if I want to give an overview, this presentation, this session addressed both satellite in situ data, but also a very wide array of types of applications like illegal mining, deforestation, flooding, air quality data, water, calibration data, and so on. We address also citizen science, cookbook for running citizen observatories, global sensor network, validation network, geoservices, data hub, and platform. So the spectra of the presentation was quite wide. If I go to the first question, the first topic, which was co-design and co-production of potential solution with users. First, in some presentations, they have addressed and presented some dedicated methodologies to assess the user needs. So first, one was the 5-step user experience from GEOSS that goes from user engagement to data preparation, platform setup, pilot integration. And another one was from Better, which set up a dedicated methodology to take into account the users, the stakeholders' feedback during all the projects. So they have a series of challenges, pipelines through workshops, which is interesting methodology. Other projects have defined dedicated tools to get the user feedback. So, for example, GEOSS with their geospatial user feedback. And also other projects try to do directly the user involvement through the involvement of test group, or inviting citizens to join the community, or to do some co-design session, user-centered approach, online resources with partner, community of practice, and advisory board. On the second question, which was about knowledge sharing, from my understanding, so the R of FAIR, which is more to have a science or application reproducible, or if possible, replicable or generalizable. This has been addressed, from my understanding, in 4 ways. In some cases, they propose a knowledge portal with information, API, for example, how to build a sensor. Also, knowledge base or cookbook, which was the case for We Observe for citizen observatories. Some peer reviews also, or also a project which is also very linked to the Geo Knowledge Hub, so the extension of the geospatial user feedback to an incremental knowledge creation, which is done in the case of GEOSS. So what we have seen is that, as it was true for the user involvement, all presentations are really addressing this. It is also the case for the knowledge sharing. It's addressed in all of the project. And in some cases, in fact, the project is using another project to do this knowledge sharing, which is the case for Better through GEOSS. And last question was about EuroGEO and upscaling. So all projects are linked more or less to GEOSS through, for example, data, service, and knowledge hub, or citizen observatories, helping to strengthen the monitoring capacity and means for capacity development. And to do the upscaling, some projects have used platform made to be able to scale to production using, for example, public cloud, like the Ellipse solution for Better. They can also be moved or applied to another region. So, for example, to a new geographical area, for example, Twiga, which was initially for Africa, can be extended to Europe or to America. Some are directly scalable by nature because they are network, like a sensor community, or as I was saying, for platform, through cloud busting, agnostic cloud, and data interoperability, they are able to directly upscale. So that's all for my presentation.
Thank you, Richard. It seems that you have a lot of discussion about some of the different platforms and sensor activities. That was really interesting. Any question, remark from the attendees? Even can do it. No problem for that.
Yes, I can. But really, I really, this is a very important topics for me. But Lucas, please, because I don't.
Yes, Luca, you can open your mic. And...
Yes, so for us, it's very important to raise the question. It's like we still do everything by our hands and very far like alone in our own sphere. And how can we get to the point that this data is not only integrated here and there in some EU-funded project, but really systematically in all activities, and especially that with our community, we can support the other initiatives because we can increase as sensor communities, not only set up for air quality, but we are also having our noise sensor network. So we have displayed the capability of setting up a totally different topic and fulfill all the aspects of storage, providing API, visualization, and we can extend this to other fields. So just how can we be integrated more systematically into other projects, and how can we increase the exchange? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Luca. There is a comment on the chat by Bente. Provide you some idea of linking with the NextGeo through the Open Search API, and also to link with the community within Geo also can be a way of going on. Yes, Yvan. So Erwin, sorry.
So, Luca, thanks for this remark, and I must say this, I joined your presentation and it was very inspiring as well as of course the others, and it's really important indeed that you team up here. I just want to say that as also was said by the previous rapporteurs, that the diversity of this community, of this EuroGEO community, is really striking. We are having, I mean, it was also a big puzzle to assign all the different presentations to the right slot, but you see that this cross-fertilization, this really works, and this is really fundamental. And this is all, at the end, all what the or at least a main point what EuroGEO is about. I just invite you to come and as well on our session on Thursday afternoon, where we will discuss on the further evolution of EuroGEO. And it's clear that what you point out is very important to really, I mean, it was said by mainly every presenter that reusing of the services built by a specific project is clear in different communities, on different thematics, in different use cases, whatever. And this is what we need to do. And so I really invite you to speak up on Thursday when we are talking to how we can evolve EuroGEO better. This is really for me the key point to address it. So it's clear that sharing things, sharing lessons learned, building on each other's, and so on. And to some extent, it's also an investment into, of course, making your things reusable and making it known and making it fair, as we would call it. But this exploitation as perspective is so important that really bring it up on Thursday afternoon, I would say, to support our vision. Yeah.
Thank you, Erwin, for the comment and for the invitation to all the attendees to join the Thursday session. Ivan?
So maybe just on citizen science, because it's a topic I work and notably through a European project to try using citizens, but not only to have data or things like that, but also involve citizens in the research life cycle and involve citizens in the need we have to upscale our analysis power, in fact. So we can mean at the first thing about crowdsourcing, I think like that, but really think about the fact that if the data, if the tools are accessible and have explained in a manner accessible by everyone, we can reach several type of audience. And this is also related to Lucas' questions, I think, because if you want to spread largely the things, you need to give access largely to it in a different kind of manner with the different text. So thinking about citizen science, where you can use the citizens also, but involve the citizens in the research project, has a component of the project where he can, for example, learn in the meantime that he is analyzing the data. This is something I think now with all the technology we have, we can do. We just have to take time to explain the things and to have this translator, to have a continuum between research and the society, in fact, but and also the technical orientation towards that. And I think really open science and citizen science are two pillars who are completely connected, and for now we really have difficulties to connect both and to go forward on this direction using IT solutions. I mean,
thank you for the comment, Ivan. If there is no additional question or remarks, I would like to thank Richard and Lionel. Oh, sorry, Audrey, I forgot. I was not seeing that you hand was raised, so you can open your mic and take the floor. You should open your mic. Yes.
Yes,
okay.
yes. And then I need to share my screen. That's it. I will try to be short then, since we only have a few minutes left. Let's see. Can you see my screen properly?
Yes.
Okay, so today Lilian and I were really pleased to co-chair the parallel session number 4 on hazards. It really was on various hazards, but also on monitoring water. I will go through the 7 different presentation and demos we had today, and I will answer the 3 different questions per presentation. Anyways, the first one was by our colleague from the Czech Republic. They looked at Earth observation-based surveillance of pop pollutions, POPs being persistent organic pollutants. They aim at developing a Stockholm Convention Global Monitoring Plan data warehouse and develop specific services and tools. To do that, they focus on co-design by using decision-making and effectiveness evaluation. They are using knowledge hubs through data management console and visualization platform that you can see on the right. And the knowledge hub is created both for regional and global use, and they are supporting the implementation of GEOSS goes for POPs. The next presentation we had was by our colleagues from Italy on data for detection, discrimination, and 4D distribution of volcanic ashes. They're working on a prototype of a system that integrates multi-sources data and provide the aviation community tailored information on volcanic eruptions. As you all know, this is very important. So when they looked at the co-design, since they were focusing on a specific area, they did one-on-one discussions with users, and they also tried as much as they could attending meetings of users community to build the visualization platform that you can see on the right, showing state-of-the-art tailored and integrated data. They're using both satellites in situ and model data in this beautiful platform. And in order to integrate what they're doing with GEO and at different levels, they're using international standards for data, metadata, and they can thus potentially export what they do to other regions. The third presentation demo we had was on satellite Earth observation derived water bodies and flood water records over Europe. They are trying to generate water bodies and flood water record over Europe, as I was saying, to understand the flood hazards at continental scale to support different application and research activities of the GFP, which is the Global Flood Management Partnership. To co-design and co-produce, they use 2 complementary frameworks. The first one is a sample default products in test area with online surveys to get feedback and produce guidelines for producing the platform. And then they have GFP expert and user groups to study the feasibility of the global monitoring service that is complementing Copernicus. And this led to creating a platform that you can see to the right, that will have all products free of charge. And they aim at having a global product fully compliant with the OGC standards. After that, we had 2 presentations from our colleagues from CLS. The first one was Lithoscope, a satellite solution to support coastal resilience. They presented their synthetic indicators to evaluate coastal risk on a dedicated web platform, which you can see to the right. In order to co-create and co-produce this the platform, they went through interviews and feedbacks to develop indicators and web platform with on 2 different spots on the French coast. And then they created this interactive web interface to help managers to get familiar with the risk that their communities are running. And also in the future, because they're not only looking at the risk at the present time, but also in the future with the climate predictions. And they really work on also enlightening, giving information and knowledge to the people so they can use these decision tools. And these coastal risk estimations from satellite data and global models are to be reproduced over any other coastal territory. We then had a presentation on SAMTool, which is the sargassum detection for operational and seasonal planning. So sargassum are harmful algae that are spreading across the Atlantic Ocean. And this group are delivering a warning system for the sargassum influxes. To proceed with the co-design and co-production of the final product, they interacted with 60 direct users, but also one ambassador that could reach over 200 users. In order to share the knowledge that they're building, they provide open access data to part of the data and publication, and they support a sustained operational system. And they also, in order to integrate this work with other geostructures, they are extending the Gulf from the Gulf of Mexico, where originally the sargassum influxes were, to West Africa. But also they're collaborating with us actually at GeoBlue Planet on the Sargassum Hub. The second to last presentation we had was on water sense. They're trying to make sense of the water value change in Australia. And they are water use monitoring and auditing service. They did a double loop learning to market value and business case understanding. They're using a very neat online toolbox that can tell you about the water use per field. And in order to collaborate with other geo and regional geos, they are contributing with many of them, including GeoGLOS, which is the land water initiative. And then our last presentation from our colleague from Greece, where on the operational flood hub solution improving civil protection in flood early warning system and monitoring. So they are developing, this flood hub platform that provides relevant information to operational authorities every 5 to 15 minutes, reliable awareness picture of the crisis in terms of flood extent and water depth. They're also looking at a dynamic crowdsourcing platform, and they are doing this, of course, in line with the GeoGlobal priority engagement and social benefit areas. And that was it for our session.
Thanks a lot, Audrey. Any remarks from the attendees? I think it was also nice to have this one-by-one feedback. That was really interesting to have different type of presentation in terms of feedback from the different sessions. So any comments, remark, additional points you want to raise? So we are close to the end of the session. So this means that I would like to thank all the chair, rapporteur, and attendees in this session. It was really, really interesting to have this feedback, and I think it will be a support for all the thinking and the follow-up discussion in EuroGEO. I think Erwin has still an information for today first. So the floor is yours, Erwin.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. First of all, I think this day was really a team effort. It was really, I mean, we had so many speakers, so many interesting projects. The chairs, the rapporteurs did all the great job. So many thanks for also the audience being so interactive. We had more than 120 people, I think, in all the different sessions. So it's perfectly. Many thanks for that. Let's continue the workshop, of course, for the next 2 days. So already this afternoon, we have a specific session organized by the eShape Consortium together with the European IB Help Desk. So if you are really developing a service which can be used, let's say commercially, where you are looking for market entry, this one is for you to follow. I think they will share some insights about how to deal with IP, with knowledge and technology transfer. So both a generic presentation from the IP Help Desk and then really focus on how does it work out for the EO sector, let's say. So join us at 2 o'clock. And then tomorrow, so we have a session at 10 o'clock again. 2.5 hours will be shared by Jean Duzer from DGR2D, where first of all we will brief you about future opportunities, or let's say I should even say current opportunities in Horizon Europe to further support EuroGEO, presented by the colleagues of the policy DGs. And then also we will introduce 2 new projects really on climate applications integrated in GEOSS, so Eiffel and Harmonia. And then after the break at 11, we will give the floor to many speakers. You see them here. I will not read them all, but there will be pictures of new players and some presentations, short presentations of new opportunities, new actors within EuroGEO, followed at the end with an open discussion. So again, here at the open discussion, it's a place to raise your voice about how you think EuroGEO should further evolve. And of course, we have then Thursday, which is fully dedicated to the evolutions of EuroGEO. So I don't know, Jean, because you are sharing the session of tomorrow, if you want to add something, feel free. Otherwise, I'm done. Maybe Thierry, you want to say something? Otherwise, we close the session here.
I think I should add my thanks to yours for all the attendees and all the participants. It was really interesting to have the feedback. I was not able to join the different session because of the help need for the people, but I am really impressed by the feedback we get from the different rapporteur, and that was great. Thanks a lot for the job you did. Thanks a lot for participating, and hopefully see you this afternoon and tomorrow for the follow-up of this workshop. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a nice breakfast. See you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.